glad to be moving this important bill. This is the Civil Liability Child Sex Abuse Proceedings Unincorporated Bodies of Persons Bill 2023. It's a bill that I've been working on, as the title shows, Minister, for some years now. Essentially, this bill would facilitate the bringing of child sexual abuse proceedings against unincorporated bodies of persons. It would enable such a body to pay damages arising from such proceedings from the assets of an associated trust in certain circumstances. It would extend the limitation period provided for by the statute of limitations in respect of certain civil proceedings arising from claims of child sexual abuse, and it would provide for connected matters. And I should say, Minister, this is an issue, as I say, I've been working on for some time. In a previous life as a practising barrister, I represented many survivors of abuse before what was then known as the Residential Institution Redress Board. These were proceedings arising out of abuse perpetrated in most cases in industrial schools, and I will never forget the experiences of the survivors who I represented, the terrible abuse they had suffered at the hands of religious figures, of lay figures employed by industrial schools, many run by religious orders, and the shocking experiences and the damage done, the harm and hurt caused to so many people, desperate harm and hurt, and the state's attempts to ensure redress, which were very important in their time, and yet so much of this stymied by the obfuscation, delaying tactics, entirely legal but not ethical devices deployed by religious orders to avoid paying their share of redress. And I suppose this enormous scandal in Irish life, I suppose, brought back to us again very starkly yesterday in the conviction and sentencing of the abuser Peter Kelly, a former maths teacher at Willow Park School in Blackrock, who was sentenced yesterday to 10 years in prison for what, again, was a horrific litany of abuse. He was sentenced in respect of 28 counts against 8 boys, and I want to pay tribute to the brave survivors of abuse who came forward to enable the prosecution to be taken. But clearly this was an abuser who remained in employment in a school run by the Spiritans for decades, and this, again, is shocking. So, Minister, this bill stems from my desire to do right by survivors. I know all of us want to do that. No organisation should be able to hide from accountability. Yet for years, religious orders have shifted their assets into trusts, into lay-run trusts, which have no legal liability. These have, therefore, legal loopholes have been used to frustrate the efforts of those seeking redress for the terrible harms inflicted on them in childhood. I know, and again I pay tribute to Minister Foley, who established the Commission of Inquiry into Sexual Abuse at Schools. I know that's underway. We've seen 5 months now since the establishment, and the Commission is directed to submit its final report to the Minister for Education not later than 5 years after its establishment. I do pay tribute to David Ryan and the late Mark Ryan and the makers of the documentary about their experiences and the experience of others, because their testimony precipitated the outpouring that led to that process. I know there's a high-level interdepartmental group arising out of that process also that's advising government in respect of funding of redress claims. So I bring forward this bill in an attempt to be constructive as part of this process. We all know the dark and shameful past of Magdalen laundries, mother and baby and county homes, industrial schools, abuse in religious order-run secondary schools and other institutions. And again, we owe an enormous debt of gratitude to those survivors and victims who've come forward, who've uncovered these abuses. But we, as legislators, must step up then to ensure that there is redress and that there is accountability for those orders, those religious orders who for far too long, as I say, obfuscated, hid, covered up abuse, moved abusers around and facilitated the perpetration and ongoing perpetration of abuse. We've seen victims re-traumatised by flawed redress procedures, dragged through lengthy legal proceedings, and we've seen successive governments bearing the cost of redress. I brought this bill forward some years ago now in a previous government. In 2024, the Taoiseach said he would refer this bill or its predecessor to the Attorney-General. Nothing has been done on it, however, and more recently when I asked the Minister for Justice again about bringing forward a bill like this to try and ensure the state could, that religious orders could be made to pay redress, that unincorporated associations couldn't hide behind legal status to avoid paying redress that was owed. At that point, the Minister indicated he would wait for recommendations from the Law Reform Commission, but I just want us to be able to move forward. And I know that many in government share the desire to ensure that religious orders can be made to pay more, that we have a legal mechanism to ensure payment of due redress to survivors. Survivors of abuse deserve justice, and I move that this bill be taken in private members' time.
Thank you. And